In today's episode on Black Vision Network, we're going to be talking about gender roles, the importance of them, what they mean to us, and what we are outside of them.
Most importantly, we're going to be talking about how do you find value outside of your gender role. In today's society, there are so many expectations put on us for what people expect us to be, what they expect us to do. But how can you find self-worth and value in yourself and just who you are?
So, if you're new here, welcome to Black Vision Network. We are a channel and we're dedicated to giving videos on motivation and improvement regarding business, counseling, education, and healthcare, especially within the Black community. And today's video is going to be kind of like relationships and self-development, more self-development. So, yeah.
So yes, today we're kind of going to give you the male and female, please don't kill me for saying that, it's just the opposite of male, perspective on this topic. So I'm going to talk from my perspective on kind of the reason why we want to do this. So I feel that for men, there's a lot of talk in today's society that, well, I don't have a man or I'm not in a relationship because men just aren't men anymore. And, since from an early age, we're taught that the expectation for a man is to be a provider. And so a lot of times we as men, if we have a temporary setback or something of that nature, we lose or we begin to have depressive thoughts in ourselves if we aren't able to meet those expectations. So today I kind of want to talk about the importance in not only being somebody of value outside of that, but how you can find that within yourself.
And then from like my perspective, I kind of see gender roles as, especially for Black women, like we always like playing the male and female one. And I think it's important for us to kind of like step into the role a little more, but like safely and with boundaries.
That sounds intriguing.
I know, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of talk about from a male perspective, how can you find value outside of just being your provider? So, in my opinion, the number one way to find something of value is you have to explore. You have to learn yourself. You have to spend alone time with yourself and figure out what you like. Cultivate things of meaning within yourself, tasks of meanings. Like, for example, take a coding class, spend time writing, exploring art. You have to be open to trying new things. You may not like it at first. It may be uncomfortable. Like some of the favorite things that I like to do now is things that I didn't do when I was younger, things that I was too scared to share. Like I definitely wouldn't be doing this, talking in front of a camera. It's like you have to explore. You have to find out what things that you like.
Yeah. So I think the gender role you talked about for males is like providing.
Yeah.
And one of those providing and money, specifically money, like, yeah. And I agree with that because, like, that makes me think because, like, I feel like Black women have had to, like, step up and be the provider for their households. Like, that's how my household was growing up. My mom provided everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I want women to take a step back from that and find a man who will provide for them because, like, women, once they operate outside of the providing zone, like, I feel like they have so much more to give. I mean, men do as well, but like you're not utilizing her where she's most effective. Women where they're most effective. And like I love the big like feminine energy movement. Talking about because like women are like naturally receivers. We're just supposed to like be and receive, compliments, whatever money, anything. Like really, it's just like that's just naturally what we're supposed to do. And men like they give the compliments. They're the action takers. They're the doers. They're the ones, the go-getters, the providers. And I think, like, the gender roles that we kind of want to avoid is just being, like, a trophy wife. Because there's not much value in that. Like, I don't think high-value women are going to do that. And I think a high-value man will naturally want to provide.
Yes.
But they'll also have a lot of it.
Bring other things to the table.
Yes, and that's like exactly kind of what we want to talk about is like how you can bring other things to the table.
Yes, because I think the big thing about gender roles is not necessarily what it says. In extreme capacities, yes, people take this to the extreme, but I think it's more the restrictive nature. So like it's high value, it's attractive when, you know, like going back to the trophy wife thing, like a woman can help out financially. Not necessarily that you need that, but it's attractive when that capability is there, that independence is there. And like on the flip side, it's attractive when, you know, the man is not just slaving away at a job, but he's making like six figures, so he's just bringing money to the table. It's more attractive, I would think, when he can do other things outside of that and bring other things to the table.
Yeah. And I think it's like regarding like money, like I think it's important for women to be able to have a system in place where they can provide the lifestyle they want for themselves before they require that of somebody else. Because like that's kind of hypocritical in my opinion. So I think it's important, and there's a lot of character in building your own. Like there's a lot of growth and character influence that you get from building your own wealth and like building your own way through life and not having to depend on somebody else. And I think just like as women, it's more fun. Like we have to have, well, not even just women. Everybody has to have things that they enjoy. Like it's just they like to do it, or there's things that you've always wanted to do, always wanted to try that you've never tried because of fear that somebody will judge you, or fear that you'll be bad at it, or fear of failure, or whatever, fear of poverty that you're gonna go broke or whatever. And I think when in any growth, you have to operate in faith. Like you have to make the decision on faith and not based off what you see. And that's like the only way you can get somewhere where you've never been before. And I think that's like all self-development is just finding ways that you can get better and be better, a little bit better each day.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I guess what I'm kind of going to touch on now is like, how do you own it? Like, how do you develop that identity of being a person that's not just known as that one thing or what your role says you should be? And so I think for men, it starts with becoming confident in the fact, like, if you don't, like, pay a single bill, that you are a person of value. It's like, I think when it comes to having security in yourself, in your identity, and having peace in that, a lot of the problem that we run into where we get away from that is when we root it in something other than ourselves. So like we root our peace or our sense of identity in the fact that we provide a six-figure salary, or we root it in the fact that we are a trophy wife, when rather you should be rooting it in yourself. So you have to be confident in just who you are as a person. And so that back to that, you have to explore yourself, you have to know yourself, you have to love yourself without anything else. It's, you know, you can't be conditional with the love and value that you have for yourself. And then, like, just as you spend time, you don't have to like broadcast it, but as you spend time doing those, cultivating those hobbies and those activities, it will become apparent that you have value in those things. Like if you're sitting here, you know, and you have a YouTube channel, for example, you know, you don't have to sit and tell the world that you have a YouTube channel. It's like if you're doing and putting out content of value, that will be known as you continue to do it consistently. And finally is not being selfish with it. You know, one of the biggest things that I think correlates to personal development is kind of taking it like you were studying. And I know a big thing, recommendation they give to really know information is to answer questions on it. So like, for example, you prove your knowledge on a subject if I can answer your questions on it. Like I may be helping you, but at the same time, I'm really helping myself be secure in the knowledge that I have for that. And I think showing other people the way is the perfect correlation of that. When you show other people how to do things, you become more secure in your knowledge of that thing. And so I think as you do that, you will start to represent a person of value outside of that. That's just valuable as you are without doing anything else.
Yeah. And I think you definitely touched on like a really big topic. It's just like teaching people. And when you're teaching people, you're kind of tapping into like a creative process.
Mm.
And the one thing that I always encourage people to do is find a way to create. Like creating it can be journaling, writing out your thoughts is creating, because you're writing out a sequence of words that have never been written before. And, it's your experience, and it can help you organize your thoughts. And then creating can be like making art. Like my brother was really into art. He used to make sculptures and stuff. Me, I like to create by making YouTube videos. That's one of my ways to create, or like playing an instrument. I got nails now, so no instruments. Another way to create is to decorate your home. Like your home kind of just shows who you are. And so make it exactly who you are. Like find the fun in anything. And stop becoming part of this consumer culture. Stop spending hours. I mean, we all do this, but spending hours scrolling your timeline, like, or watching YouTube videos. Reading a book is a good way to consume because you're expanding your vocabulary and your own like awareness. But find a way to add to this world instead of taking from the world. Find a way you can add value for something that you like, and go for it. Don't be scared of what other people think of it, because the only way to get good at something is to be bad at it first. So
That's a huge point, and I think the more and more we talk about it, the more that I really see like at the heart of this is your comfortability with yourself. It's like for so long, it's like I know for me personally, like I've hidden parts of myself because I was scared of what the world or my friends may say or interpret what I was doing. And that's really just, I mean, beyond the insecurity of what other people think, that's an insecurity within yourself. Somebody may have told you, oh, you're not good enough at that, or you shouldn't be doing that. Who do you think you are? And so that thing has manifested in itself where you're scared to be your true self. You're scared to explore your passions. And you really have to take the time to be with yourself and deal with that so you can cut that. Because on the other side of comfortability, becoming comfortable with yourself is so much growth. It's like once you become comfortable in your own skin and what you want to do, is just how much better you will be at it. Like I feel like I was very stagnant, for example, with writing because I refused to share or even tell anybody that I was interested in it. It wasn't until I started telling, for example, Janae, that I started to be able to explore different writing styles and get better with that. And so, yeah, you really have to become comfortable with yourself, shed that skin of insecurity, and just go after it.
yep. And he told me about it. Like it's important to like honestly, it really depends on how strong you are, because sometimes you can tell people like your goals, and they'll shoot it down due to their own fearful thoughts that they
Yep.
couldn't do it themselves. And I really encourage you not to take that as like a negativity, but take that as encouragement. Like take that as fuel to your flame. Like they're too scared to do it, so once you do it, there's going to be less people there because they didn't even have the guts to start doing it. And then it's important to surround yourself with other people that are like will encourage you, because
That's
like
huge.
ultimately you kind of become the people that you surround yourself with. And the one thing that really like I've been thinking about is like even the people that are just okay with like mediocrity, like the people that are at the same level as you, but like we're like trying to be better, but they're just completely fine with staying at that level. Like those are the dangerous ones because you're right there with them. So it's like, oh, okay, it's cool. Like with people who are not on your level, you're like, oh, that's a waste of time. But like you don't really see it that way when they're currently on the same level as you. And I feel like it's like that. I don't know. It's like a Greek mythology. Like I don't know. Like the casino where you go in and you thought it was only like 4 minutes and it was 40 days.
Oh, I know what
Like,
you're talking about.
like that's why I feel like it's
Yeah.
like the Lotus Casino or whatever.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's like with like mediocre people. Like don't get stuck being mediocre. Like I think one of my goals in life is to like be the most interesting person that I know. Cause like I love when people are always like, I didn't even know you could do that, and I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm just full of surprises.
Yeah, and that's kind of the importance of this video as well because, too often in the black community, unfortunately, you have situations where, like, for example, if you speak proper, people will be like, oh, why do you talk white? And it goes back to that insecurity of within themselves, Maybe they didn't have the opportunity to have higher education. So when you talk proper, they're intimidated by that. And so for some reason now there's a stereotype in plenty of young gifted black minds that talking white is equivalent to talking proper, and I have to talk improperly to be more black. And so I really want to free us from that perspective, and understand on both sides. Both sides need healing. The person who is telling the other person, "Hey, you talk white," needs healing, and the person who is hearing that message inadvertently shouldn't really be hearing it. It's like a stray shot. They need healing as well now from that on the other side of that. So
I think like that argument though, like I always have a weird opinion about that because I'm like, what is proper? Because the English language is kind of stupid. Like,
well, what
grammar is kind of
yeah.
stupid. Like, if I can understand what you're saying, I can understand what you're saying. Like, it's not my fault you don't understand like the words and terms I'm using. Because I was like talking to you about like I was saying at work, I was like, I'm gonna have to take an L on that, and like the person I was talking to, she was white, and she was like, an L? What's She said like some other L word, and I was like, no, I mean a loss, because like we had new trainees and it sucked, so I was like, I'm gonna take an L on that.
Yep.
And then it was a loss, and she was like, oh, and I was like, I didn't even realize like a lot of the terms like a black person will understand that, but white people won't. But I don't feel bad because I don't care. Yeah. I have like enough knowing that I'm intelligent enough that I'm like, oh, you're stupid for. I mean, that's bad. But I'm like, how did you not know what that was?
But you know that because you have security in yourself. Like somebody, like especially like a young, what is the word, like vulnerable? I don't want to say vulnerable, but malleable mind is not going to know that, and that's just something that sits with them and festers.
Yeah.
But let's kind of talk about how we do this. Like, I know for me, this has been a big focus for me lately, but in trying to be a value outside of your gender role. I know for me, one of the big things I do is try to have like an attitude of service. And I always think like, and many of people will talk about it, is like the biggest impact that you can have is what you will do for others. Is like, so rather than speak for yourself, if you impact enough other people positively, they will do your boasting for you. And so I kind of think of, how else, what better way to add value than give counsel to my friends or help people avoid situations and pitfalls that I've encountered, because I know I would want that. I know there's a lot of firsts that both of us have had to go through that I would much rather help somebody along the way so that they can achieve an even higher level of success faster.
Yep. And I guess the ways that you said you'd like to just focus on service, that's like, I think that's kind of like what I like to do. Like, I always ask myself, like, how can I add value to somebody's life? And so, like, a lot of the times, like, now that I'm older, a lot of the projects I work on, they're purposely, like, how do I add value? Like, how do I utilize my interests and skills and, hobbies to add value to somebody else's life? Because, honestly, like, even the little things, like social media, YouTube, it does feel good. It's, like, the most free dose of dopamine you can get is when somebody's like, wow, you really did help me. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, anytime.
Man, just creating in general, it gives you such a high.
Yes.
Like you talked about creating versus consumerism. Like, I feel, and I'm sure we all feel like bad. Like after I know I get like screen reports and I try to put limits on certain apps, but like when you get your weekly screen report on Sunday, it's kind of a little depressing when you see like, oh, I really spent like 6 hours of my day doing that, and I didn't like work on this project. It's like, dang, I feel so much better when I've spent that time doing something that I enjoy, something that's fun to me, something that's adding value. And like you'll just see a general like boost in your mood. It'll be like hard to disturb that.
Yeah. And I think like the way that really helps me is I do put a timer on my phone. And then on top of that,
Pomodoro timer.
Like once you get into the habit of doing things, like me going to the gym is one thing I like to do. I like to make YouTube. I already talked about it. Making YouTube videos, and yeah, I like to do journaling and meditations and stuff. And I always talk to them about it. I was like, oh, I haven't been doing it lately. I don't feel good. And I like to chase that feeling of knowing that I did that for myself. Like, those things are for myself as well as for the generations to come after me and other people. Because, like, if I can't be the best for myself, I can't show up for other people. And ultimately, other people is how you build your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know it sounds kind of like, oh, you shouldn't care. Like, honestly, you shouldn't care what other people think. But, like, they are how you build your legacy, and they help you. Like, iron sharpens iron. Like,
It's a double-edged sword right there.
For real.
So, yeah, I would say if there were, like, any final takeaways that you could take away from this is focus on what you root your identity, your value in. It's like, for me, I really have to, like, take it away. Like, the world may tell me I'm one thing, but I know, and I don't want to get too Christian-y or Bible-y on you, but I try to root my identity in what God says. God says, through him anything is possible. We are wonderfully made. So I try to focus on those things. Like when I feel down, I focus on the fact that as I am, as I was created by God, I have value and I have worth.
Yeah. And drawing back to the Bible, like, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. What are you thinking about? Like, what negative thoughts do you tell yourself? Are you telling yourself things that encourage you, or are you telling yourself things based out of fear? Because that really does change. What you think about changes your reality. So,
Yes.
Assess that. Figure out what you do want. Well, figure out the reality. You kind of like work backwards. Figure out the reality you want, and then try to embody somebody who would be living in that reality. And before you know it,
You'll be there.
you'll be there.
Yep. So thank you for tuning in. Continue to follow the journey. Subscribe, like, follow. I hope you gained something from this video. This has been Black Vision Network on how to find value outside of your gender role. Peace.
Wet, 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 wet.
Ma, ma, ma.
Ah! Hello. Hi. Hi. Okay.